In the soft hush of a distant past, long before engines, borders, and passports, a thin thread of dust stretched across continents. It shimmered under the sun like a moving ribbon, fading into mountains, deserts, and unknown horizons. This was the Silk Road, an ancient pathway not of silk alone, but of stories, breaths, and footsteps. And what medieval travelers experienced along this road was far deeper, quieter, and stranger than the tales we usually hear. The journey began long before a merchant ever set foot on the trail. Medieval travelers prepared not only their goods but their minds, knowing they were stepping into a world where familiarity dissolved. They tightened the ropes around their bundles of silk, jade, salt, porcelain, spices, and manuscripts, but they also carried whispered warnings from elders. The road tests a traveler's patience more than his coin. Some tied charms to their belts, others memorized prayers, and many simply hoped their courage would be enough. For the Silk Road was not a line on a map, it was a living, breathing force. Leaving the walls of a city, a traveler first felt the astonishing quiet. Behind him were the cries of markets, metalworkers, inns, and storytellers, but ahead lay only an open world, unclaimed and unmapped in the minds of most. The first days were often uneventful, but they exposed the medieval truth no one mentions. A traveler had to learn how to be alone. Caravan bells clinked softly and the sound of hooves sank into cool dust. Hours passed like drifting clouds. The road taught slowness and it taught surrender. In the deserts of Central Asia, silence became a companion so heavy it seemed to rest on the chest. Sandstorms rose without warning, turning daylight into swirling darkness. Medieval travelers wrapped their faces in cloth and crouched beside their camels, feeling grains of sand sting their skin like needles. They could do nothing but wait. When the storm passed, the world felt reborn. Dunes reshaped, tracks erased, and the road lost beneath shifting hills. It was said that travelers survived not through strength but through the ability to read shadows. The faint trace of a caravan that might have passed days before, the angle of wind-sculpted sand, or the lonely skeleton of a lost animal pointing toward the nearest oasis. Night in the desert was another test. The cold arrived like a living creature, wrapping itself around the body with icy fingers. Travelers huddled near small fires, listening to the cracking wood and the distant cries of unseen animals. Some nights, when the sky was clear, the stars looked close enough to touch. The road seemed to belong to the heavens rather than the earth. Under that vast dome, travelers learned another truth rarely mentioned. The Silk Road was not only a route of trade, it was a place where belief deepened. Some prayed to survive the next day. Others whispered old legends passed through generations. Many simply stared upward in wonder, feeling small, fragile, and profoundly alive. But not all dangers were from nature. Bandits haunted the narrow passes of mountain regions, waiting for slow caravans burdened with goods. Travelers described the fear that crept in long before they saw any threat. The unsettling quiet of a canyon, or the sudden disappearance of birds in the sky. Caravans often hired guards, but sometimes a traveler's best defense was humility. A merchant might pretend his valuables were simple cloth, or he might distribute a few coins as gifts to avoid conflict. In the medieval world, bargaining was not only for markets, it was a tool for survival. As caravans climbed the Pamir or Tian Shan mountains, something extraordinary happened. The air thinned, but so did the boundary between cultures. A person could meet Persians, Turks, Chinese, Arabs, Mongols, Tibetans, and traders from lands only spoken of in stories. The Silk Road was not a single road, but a moving tapestry of humanity, woven from languages, accents, costumes, and customs. A traveler might share a fire with someone who prayed differently, cooked differently, or believed in spirits unknown to him. And yet in the thin, cold air of the mountains, differences softened. People warmed each other's hands, traded dried fruits and stories, and listened to tales from beyond the horizon. In the towns that dotted the Silk Road, Samarkand, Bukhara, Kashgar, Merv, Nishapur, Dunhuang, travelers stepped into worlds that felt both familiar and foreign. They encountered markets overflowing with things they had never seen, powders that promised immortality, bottles of oil that glowed like captured moonlight, and fabrics dyed with colors so deep they seemed unreal. Spices perfumed the air, merchants shouted prices, storytellers recited poems. Children ran between stalls, their laughter echoing above the noise. But among the excitement lurked the realities many accounts ignore: exhaustion, illness, and suspicion. Travelers carried dust from dozens,